Well, they changed the name of the street. They just...
Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Poquoson City Council for Monday, February 24th. And if we could all please rise, I'll have an invocation, lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the many blessings we've received in our city. We ask for a portion of your wisdom this evening, a small portion, as we deliberate the issues that are important to our citizens. We ask that you be with those in need, with those who have lost loved ones within the last few weeks, and we ask as well for your blessing on our military as they serve in foreign lands, and as well on our public safety employees as they serve our nation, our city, and our state. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got actually what I've been looking forward to. We have a exciting special presentation this evening to council, but I would tell the citizens to really pay attention to this one. This is something that the city of Poquoson knows all too well. The risks of storm surge, the risks of damage to your properties, and City Council, with the help of a grant from the state and with the full participation of our friends and our neighbors, and really many of the employees that live in our city work there with NASA, to look at their modeling capability and then roll the two kind of together. And the city's real excited about the aspect of looking at this. Tonight's presentation is going to be led by Ellen Roberts, but as well, we want the viewpoint of NASA as well. So, Ellen?
Good evening. I am very pleased tonight to get to show you some of the capabilities of this GIS tool that NASA's provided to us. This is something that is going to make storage or storm preparation, drainage complaints, sea level rise planning, hazard mitigation planning, comp planning a lot easier and a lot more accurate for the city of Poquoson. And we're just very lucky to have this tool, and we're already using it like crazy. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you that basically tonight I'm going to explain how some of the ways we're going to use this tool. We'll use it other ways too. There's just a variety of ways we can use it. But basically I wanted you to think of three things. When we're preparing for a storm, we need fast information. We need information for a variety of conditions. Storm surge predictions change every couple hours, change over the life of the storm, and we need the ability to react to that as quickly as possible. And finally, when you're applying for grants, when you're explaining a drainage issue, when you are explaining or trying to educate the public about what's coming with a storm, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And this tool gives us more pictures than any other local government has, and it really will help us as we're trying to educate people about what's coming or what's occurred. Okay, so what does it do? Real-time mapping, or as close to it as possible. When we get a storm surge prediction from the weatherman, what they do is they say, at Sewell's Point, we're expecting a certain height storm surge, say a 5-foot storm surge. We need to know what that means. Our citizens want to know how that affects their yards, their neighborhood, the city. and it's very difficult for them to translate a storm surge prediction at Sewell's Point into what's going on in the city. This allows us to do that. We can look at a city-wide scale, or we can drill down and look at a particular neighborhood. We can look at multiple water levels. We can increase it by, we can go from 5.1 feet of storm surge to 5.7. We can look at various tide situations. That's really good because a lot of maps only give you one level of flood plus one level of tide. It's a set map. This lets us play with that information and create new maps for a multiple set of circumstances. The other thing this tool does is we have some information. We have information on the finished floor elevations for city buildings and for some privately owned structures that people volunteered to let us get the information in the model. And when there is a storm surge, when we produce a flood map, we can actually, the tool actually shows how much water will be in these structures. And that's something you can use for FEMA insurance claims, that sort of thing. You'll see down at the bottom we have a disclaimer. This is a planning tool. Obviously, we can't control the weather, and storm surges change and don't always come out the way the weatherman predicts them. But what this tool does is give us a lot better information than we've ever had in the past for a larger amount of the city. Okay, how do we use it before the storm? Storm prep. We have resources. We may want to focus on areas, moving equipment to a part of the city that doesn't flood or isn't likely to flood. This gives us a better idea of where those areas are. This is a great public education tool. We can create maps that we can put on our website and our TV station so our citizens can see exactly what's coming or at least have a better idea of it. During the storm, we can update these maps as soon as we get a new information so our first responders have better information. They not only know where it's flooding, but the map has different shades of blue that can indicate how deep the water is. So they have the best information we can give them before they have to head out in the storm. After the storm, we have backup information that will help citizens with their insurance claims, and we can do post-storm analysis to a greater degree, so maybe we can prepare more for the next event. Okay, engineering and planning. Thank you for this tool. This will help out tremendously when I have a drainage complaint because I not only get to see what's flooded, but I get to create maps that show how a particular property or system floods over time, as the water increases. So we really get a good idea of where the weak link in the drainage system is and we can fix it. We're going to use it for the Bay TMDL to really drill down on where our outfalls are in terms of the ditches and also to distinguish between what might be Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction and what's part of our drainage system. By being able to map out the difference, we have some backup information for what we have to treat and what we don't have to treat when the regulators come and want to look at that. We have better information which might help with our community rating system. We can present that to the reviewers. This will be used for the multi-hazard plan update that's coming up and for comp plan updates. We can create a variety of maps and have some good visuals for those projects. Finally, for grants. There are more sea level rise grants, more recurrent flooding grants, more hazard grants coming down the pike. We have a good tool to demonstrate the need, and maybe this will help get us that funding. We've already used the technology. This is a PowerPoint slide that NASA created for us when we were doing, before our product was done, for use with the Wythe Creek Road widening talks early on. Council directed that the causeway should be raised. That's one of the main reasons for the Wythe Creek Road widening. So the city has a second way in and out of the city during storm events. This is a good visual because it shows what the tool looks like on my computer screen. Basically, and then the maps that NASA created were used to show the contractors and VDOT why we needed that causeway raised. So they were kind of hoping we'd let the causeway be a little lower than our original hope. When they saw this map, they just let the subject drop and agreed to raise the causeway. So this probably helped us get a better way out of the city. Okay, this is the map. This is created with our tool. This is no storm surge, no tidal flooding. This is just mean high water, okay? So I'm just giving you an idea what it looks like when you kind of blow it up to the whole city. The important thing here too is this tool basically just shows storm surge or tidal flooding. We can put in some fudge factors and maybe factor in what we know about drainage system capacity limits or wind and look at specific areas and make some educated guesses to kind of predict a bit more flooding in those areas. But this is something that you just don't see in other localities. Okay. This is a storm surge. This is 5.2 feet above mean low water. And you're starting to see that Plumtree Island's gone underwater. And if you see the difference in the blues, that kind of gives you an idea. The deeper water's the deeper shade of blue. The lighter blue is shallower water. Now I'm going to show you how we can drill down and look at a particular area. And what I've tried to do here is stick with city-owned structures. I didn't want to show any privately owned structures flooded for a fictitious storm event. So what I'd like you to pay attention to is the ball fields and around the pool area, the pool yard. Let me go over here and show that. So as I go through these slides, you might want to look at this area, the area up there, and this area. And what it allows us to do is see how a particular area would flood over time. So I'm going to go quickly through this. First one is the 5.2 feet above mean low water, 5.7, 6.7. So basically, as the storm surge prediction changes, we have a little bit more idea of what's going on. If we know we have a certain storm surge prediction, and we're wondering if we have to move stuff out of the pool house to somewhere else, this can tell us what we might want to do. So that's how we might use this. Or if we had a drainage complaint in this area, if this were private property, we could use this to see what ditch overflowed first. Okay, potential grant projects. Once again, like I said, we're starting to see more grants for recurrent flooding or sea level rise. This is Hunts Neck Road, and this is a low point in Hunts Neck Road. The reason I pulled this up isn't to say that this may or may not be where you want to apply for a grant, but this is a section of roadway that's lower than the area before and after it, that when it floods would cut off the northwestern part of the city. So in this particular instance, I held I held 1 foot of sea level rise, saying it's a sea level rise grant, and I'm going to show it during different tidal conditions. There's mean low water, there's mean high water, mean high water, and then mean high water. Same storm surge, and you can see the road flooding. And this would be a very good visual if you put it in a grant package to show why this particular section of road flooded. And what I would also do is include a larger scale drawing that showed the areas north and south of this road were dry during the same condition. So, thank you, NASA. These are the people that have been involved. We have some of them here with us tonight. Brad Ball definitely got the ball rolling and was the leader. Bert Smithson was here patiently asking me for more information and getting the kinks worked out. Monica was their branch head and is now the acting division head, and she is just a lot of support. Kathy was the former head, and we appreciate her help. And Donna has kind of help get through the kinks of a NASA contract. And we had a lot of people with NASA legal and partnering teams that just kind of helped get through the government procurement process, which is not fun. We also had interns and volunteers. Drew Prosser worked for Poquoson last summer. Kyle is a Poquoson resident who worked for NASA. You may have seen these guys around the city last summer taking measurements all over creation. And they basically went out and did the field work. This is a very accurate tool, confirmed with field elevations, and they did the legwork. And we had a lot of volunteers who let us look at their property and get finished floor elevations. And we appreciate that quite a bit. So if citizens want to see what goes on in their own yard, we can just give me a call or stop by and we can do a live demonstration of the tool. So.
Okay. Council, any questions?
I had a couple. First off, you've been doing the work of many people for a long time, so I'm hearing in your voice that this has made your life a little bit better.
I love this thing, yes. I can basically ask a lot of questions and do a quick analysis. What I would do is, typically what I do if there's a drainage complaint is I start going through the topo. I love reading contours and figuring out how the land drains, but this is a time saver. So even something as simple as my ditches overflow, or the city ditches overflowing into my yard, I can look at this very quickly and figure out whether the yard is filling up before or after the ditch. We are always getting approached by people who want to talk about sea level rise or recurrent flooding. Basically, they come into the city, they have one map that's 80 or 100 years out there for one title condition, and they present it, and that's it. I don't have enough information to look on a local basis because it's such a large-scale map. This gives me the ability to drill down and look close.
That's nice.
And instead of just this one generalized map in this one condition, I can look at properties, specific properties in low areas under different conditions, and I can figure out what the options really are. And that's something that these big generalized maps don't give us.
I'm glad to hear that for
And
your sake.
that's just a small portion of what we do.
Good.
So.
And my other question was, I see that you have the predictions of the maps. How often are we saving the map in real time, or is we have one base map, or is there something that's giving us changes? Like, do we have one map saved and we're going to have a different, it might look different just naturally this time next year?
We only get LiDAR once every while because it costs a lot of money.
Okay.
This was done in LiDAR as the aerial photo. It's the information that gives us the vertical elevations and the horizontal, or there's all the same, never mind. We only get that once in a while. This had the latest data. We're hoping to get some, I'm kind of trying to finagle some free LiDAR through another source, and if I can get that, I may try to get this tool updated. For planning purposes, it is appropriate. It is not a substitute for site-specific elevation, but for planning for a flood or for planning just in general, it is so much better than anything we had that, light years ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
When you were showing the different surge levels, what was the surge level at Doan Isabel? Do you recall?
8.7.
Oh.
7. So that was considerably higher than any of the ones that
Yes.
you showed. Yeah. Okay.
I was trying to, like I said, not flood private property when it wasn't a real storm.
Thank you for that.
So I was kind of sticking with a range where we would, a large portion of the city flooded, so I didn't go up to that level. But what they did for us when we were negotiating with Wythe Creek Road, the causeway elevation, is they actually provided information on Isabel and Sandy for that particular application.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you, Ellen, but I'm not really done with everybody yet. I do want to recognize what this tool will do for us. Basically, to follow up, and I think probably the most money will be saved by this tool by our ability to plan for future storms. It's what council, we've all talked about, even during Isabel, and NASA experienced this as well, and that's why Isabel rings so true with all of us. And if we can put in improvements, if we can spend our money wisely to knock off the hour before the highest tide or the 2 hours before the highest tide, think how many dollars would be saved if we could just slow the rate of ingress. And I think this tool will give you the ability to say, if I spend $200,000 on a check dam here, then we may be able to knock the top off of a storm surge by a foot if we have 4 hours. Those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And that's where the money will really be saved. So thank you so much for what you've done. And if I could get the associates from NASA to join me, please. Let me also say that I'd probably bet money that we're the only city that has this right now. Is that right? So working well ahead of, and don't get me wrong, Hampton's already been calling about it, and they'll probably be coming to see us in the next few weeks to follow on that. But we didn't want to let this go by, and so from the city of Poquoson, I'm going to read this certificate of appreciation if I could. Whereas the GIS team of Langley Research Management Office, and thank you for advancing the state of art in GIS technology and storm surge prediction. Whereas by transferring this advanced technology to the city of Poquoson, the city has been provided tools to better understand the impacts of upcoming storm events. The public will be provided a more informed warning and mapping system, and that this plan can be used for operations of the Emergency Operations Center by first responders. Now, therefore, in recognition of this provision of this outstanding technology to the city, we as members of Poquoson City Council do hereby express our most sincere appreciation to Donna Lawson, Government Relations Officer, Monica Ross Clunas, Acting Head of Resource Management Office, COD for their management and strong support of the project, and to William Brad Ball, leader of the GIS team, John Smithson, analyst of the GIS team, and the entire GIS team of the Langley Research Management Office. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for working with us. So you can get this way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you.
Okay, next item on the agenda for this evening is an audience for visitors. So this is the time you can address council on any issue of importance. Dr. Flynn.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and citizens of Poquoson. My name is Charles Flynn. I live at 110 Sandy Bay Drive. Been a while since I've been here, but I used to haunt the place. I brought up a couple of points that I read recently through our local paper, the Daily Press. One was about 3 weeks ago, headed Small Investment Seeks Big Upturn, and it has to do with the multimedia blitz that was put out by Parks and Rec and the economic development people. Basically, what they did was they made a video. They had trailers at multiple movie houses touting the advantages of Poquoson as a place to live. I've seen it. It was very well done. However, the heading small investment, $40,000. I don't think that's quite that small. It probably mostly funds a full-time teacher for the school system. Then it further says that a repeat program such as this might cost upward of $250,000. Further, it was stated that this is a marathon, and just running this kind of program one time won't work, that we have to keep going. Well, my thought is that it's a pretty expensive marathon at this time. After looking at the school system, apparently had to cut about $900,000 from their budget. So I think this is not a good time to get into that. More importantly, the second issue was the thing a couple of days ago in the Daily Press about transportation funding forecast, that they forecast monies up to $25 billion over the next 26 years. And the question, they say, now how to spend it. I think that's pretty ambitious. This is from state funds, federal funds, bonds, local funds down the road. But $26 billion is an awful lot of money. In the article, halfway through it, it states that in addition to the revenue forecast, the board received an update on legislation from the Transportation Secretary on two bills, well, one House and one Senate. They're basically identical. The House bill is 1253. And I looked into this. This basically brings back the memories of 2007 when we had the Hampton Roads Transportation Authority that was set up. And after a lot of battling, including in this room, when representatives from the Hampton Roads Transportation Authority came and tried to sell this idea, Poquoson told them no. Long story short, out of the, I believe it was 12 jurisdictions, 7 voted for it, so it became a law. But it was a brief law in as much as the Supreme Court struck it down, that what it did was it constituted an unelected bureaucratic bureau that could collect taxes. And they said, this is impossible. You can't have an unelected body collect taxes, and it was thrown out and forgotten about up until now. I've pulled up the government projects on these bills. That's this 1253 House bill, and it almost word for word, it's the same as the Hampton Roads Transportation Authority that was denied by the Supreme Court. I think that this should be pushed further. I talked to Mr. Green, and he said, well, they get around it by they just manage the funds, and that they don't really collect the funds. But on the other hand, reading the bill, other than just managing funds, they have the authority to start projects and fund projects, to rent property, to pay salaries, to use any number of consultants they want, legal help, engineers, down the road. And what they do is they take that the money that is drained from that and pass the bill to the local jurisdictions such as Poquoson. And maybe we need the Supreme Court Justice Roberts to explain why this is not a tax. I think it should be fought. I think it's a bad idea. However, I may be in the minority on this. And along the same line, the Hampton Roads planning districts, there are 21 of them. We are number 23, and that apparently came about in 1990 when they merged the South Side communities, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, so forth, with us, Hampton, Poquoson, Newport News, and they were merged, and I'm not sure that was a very good idea. The agendas and the goals of the South Side and the North Side are often totally at odds, if anything else. And back in 2007, I saved all these articles that they felt that the peninsula, would contribute 30% of the monies to these programs. We would gain 8% of the building projects. If you remember that, there was the third crossing, the 460, the Virginia Expressway, so forth. All we got out of that mess was some widening of Route 64, which still has to be done. That's it. I haven't been here in a while, and I thought I would bring this up. But I think it would be wise to look into this. You can go to the internet, HB 1253, and compare it with the defunct Hampton Roads Transportation Authority, which was ruled illegal. There are an awful lot of similarities to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flynn. Anyone else? Okay. We can now close the audience for visitors. I will tell you, Dr. Flynn, because of the modeling simulation, we have a couple staff members here from Economic Development that can address your first concern, and I'll invite you to chat with them either before or during the meeting or during the rest to get some of that information. They happen to be here for another reason. And the second one, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of argument from council that the state is basically passing down some transportation things that we don't necessarily all like, but they are still state law. So thank you for your comments. All right. With that said, I'll move to approval of the minutes. Councilman Green, I know you're always ready.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 10th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve those minutes. Any questions or comments? If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you very much. And the council retreat minutes?
Mayor, I move that we adopt the minutes of the council retreat of February 13th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we adopt those also. Any comments? Not, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, under unfinished business, we have a request for a subdivision ordinance variance for pending improvements to Pickens Lane.
If I could, I'll
Yes, sir.
reintroduce the subject.
Okay.
As members of council will recall, and folks that may be watching from home, approximately 1 month ago, the city held a public hearing, and the subject of that public hearing was relating to variance requests for the subdivision street standards. And you can see on the left up there, the schematic at that time, it involved the variance pertained to the area behind the curb line, which would typically be donated to the city as part of a public road donation. It featured a 15-foot radius, which is a minimum standard, which is found in our city subdivision standards. During that meeting, members of council expressed concern that that 15-foot minimum, though it was contained in the ordinance, given the nature of the road and the traffic on the road, they just didn't feel that was sufficient, and asked the applicant to go back and see what they could do in conversation with the landowners on both sides. If you're looking at where it says MES Road, looking at the left and the right there at the intersection, to see if it was possible to either acquire additional land on one side or the other, to redesign the road, to do whatever was possible to improve that radius. It was tabled for 2 weeks. In the interim, we received a request from the applicant to table for an additional 2 weeks. They have been working diligently, is my understanding, with both landowners. And what you see on the right is their updated proposal. Mr. Myers and his team are here. It'd be appropriate this time to let them come forward, explain what they've been doing in the months since you've seen them, and explain the modifications they're suggesting. And if you can't see it at home because it's light, essentially as you're looking again up towards the words MES Road, what you see is a 25-foot radius on the right and the original 15-foot radius on the left. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Mayor Hunt, members of council, good evening. My name is Lamont Myers. I'm with Mid-Atlantic Commercial and Lambs Creek Associates. We're the applicant here. I'd like to thank Ellen and Debbie for all the work and all the help they've given us on this. This is a little bit of a challenge to make this work. We certainly heard you loud and clear when we were here a month ago trying to widen this radius out and work with the adjacent property owners. Our first attempt was to, rather than to seek a variance you see on the left, was to actually go to the property owners and try to acquire those fillets of land, which would then allow us to put we could put wider radiuses within that, even within that 15-foot fillet. We could have widened the radiuses out to 25 feet, which was, we thought, a very good suggestion by your city engineer, Ms. Roberts. Subsequent to that, we have been meeting with both property owners. Mr. Worley, who's here with us tonight, he's been working with Mr. Finch, who's the property owner to the south, which would be the right, and we have an agreement in principle with Mr. Finch to purchase that radius. I've been meeting with Mr. Long, who has been very helpful, very gracious. Mr. Long has been working, has a hedge there that he's been growing for about 35 years, and his driveway is very, very close. And after a number of meetings and proposals, you have a letter in your council packet that basically explains Mr. Long's rationale for not selling that property, and we certainly respect that. So what we did, we went back and met again, and the suggestion was, well, maybe if we slightly bent the road, and if you look to the right, you'll see it. The road is not exactly aligned. It bends somewhat to the south, and by doing that, again, it was we thought a very good suggestion by staff. By doing that, we were able to maintain a 25-foot radius on the south side, which was the right-hand turn, was the turn movement that people were most concerned about, and by doing that, actually pick up a 20-foot radius on the left. So now what we have there is, by purchasing the property from Mr. Finch to the south, we can achieve a 25-foot radius to the right, a 20-foot radius to the left, and do that without buying any property from Mr. Long. So Mr. Long was very pleased with that. We understood from the conversations with the staff, they would still like us to try to get a maintenance easement from Mr. Long, and today I did get that easement agreement signed by Mr. Long. So we have come to terms on that. So I think what we've done here, as I say, this has been not easy, certainly, but we're very interested in working with you all and doing the best job we can in the city, and we're very happy with this. This will require us to stop the sidewalks, as you can see there at the back of their property lines, because when you start to slide that road over slightly, you do lose some width in there, so you can't really fit a sidewalk all the way down to Emmaus. We're not as concerned with that because there are no sidewalks on Emmaus now, and actually it may be safer because you're not going to have people riding bikes right up to the end out into Emmaus. So we think actually it's probably a safer situation than you would have otherwise. So we would like some clarity. You do have a resolution in your council packet that says if you consent to approve this variance, and I would like to point out the variance we're asking for now is only half of what we were asking for a month ago. Now that we're able to dedicate the property to the south, we're only asking for that 51 square feet of right-of-way dedication variance to the north. And rather than dedicate that, we do have an agreement to provide a maintenance easement over that same amount of property. So there is a condition that's attached to your resolution that says the developer must acquire an access easement from adjacent property owners in order to accommodate future maintenance of the street where appropriate. We would only ask that you clarify that is from the adjacent property owner to the north. It's a little nebulous there. That would clarify that for us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Our engineer, Mr. Paul Michael, is here with us this evening, and we certainly appreciate all the help the staff gave us and all Mr. Michael's hard work and Mr. Finch and Mr. Long's consideration, and we think we've come up with something that really works for everyone, and we would respectfully ask for your approval.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions while he's at the podium? Okay, thank you very much.
I just have one.
Okay.
I see where the property narrows on the right-hand side where the sidewalk could not be continuous all the way to Emmys Road. But on the left-hand side, it actually widens, and it looks like on the left-hand side of the road, the sidewalk could go all the way to Emmys Road, which, should there be some future development, and knowing that Emmys Road is very narrow, but should there be sidewalks there, then that would connect them. And I was wondering if any thought was given to putting the sidewalk down on one side.
We didn't really think about that. I don't think that would be a problem if that's the wishes of the council. There is room to do that. If that would be your wish, I think we can certainly accommodate that.
So that is your property?
That would be, yes, that would be property, what would be city property. We'd dedicate that as part of the right of way.
I think that might be a good idea.
I don't agree. Just because of that reason that I brought up last time, the reason that Lamont just mentioned. What you're doing is you're setting up people on bicycles to ride straight out into Emmys Road. There's no sidewalks there now, and it would be such a long time before it ever is that I think that little expanse of sidewalk could easily be included into a project if there ever was one to put sidewalks on Emmys. But I think you're really setting up people for an unsafe condition to ride out into that street.
How about part of the way down, but not all the way to the end?
So what are you going to gain? I mean, if the sidewalk ends,
Well, if you're walking,
it doesn't
if a
matter
kid gets
whether
over
it
the
ends
bus.
halfway down the property or not.
My only thought for asking the question was to save the city money on paving that sidewalk to as little a cost as possible should sidewalks be included on Emmys Road sometime in the future.
But personally, I don't feel it's worth the risk that some kid's going to ride his bicycle out into that lane without looking and get killed. I'd rather, that little bit of sidewalk, we're not talking about a whole lot of expense. I'd rather see it remain just like it is. I think you're really setting somebody up for an unsafe condition.
Well, maybe, but they might well just go off the sidewalk into the street, which is an even more unsafe condition.
Well, if they go off the sidewalk into the street, they're in a wide street in the subdivision. They can't get from the sidewalk to Emmaus.
Okay. Are there any other questions of Mr. Myers?
I was curious if these were curbs, just curious.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Okay. I think that's the whole presentation. Is there a motion by council?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving a variance to the city subdivision ordinance from pending upgrades to Pickens Lane on property identified as tax map number 10-01-00035 with the following change to the condition under section 1 to add the words after owners to the north of the right-of-way in order to accommodate future maintenance of street where appropriate.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve the resolution. Now the discussion on the sidewalk. How about that?
Thank you. I'm not hard over on it. I just asked the question because I saw two sidewalks stop, and sometime in the future, the city may eventually get around to paving sidewalks on Emmys Road, and that will be 100 feet or so of sidewalks that the city won't have to pay for. And everybody has a point. Maybe it stops kids from running into the street, but it also, if a kid's heck bent to go all the way down the Emmys and maybe over to the next street, what they're going to do is not stop just because the sidewalk does. They're going to go into the street and go on down the Emmys Road and around the corner.
Well, hopefully they'll see the stop sign there, right?
Well, yeah, true. But it's safer for them to be on the sidewalk as far as they can possibly go. My personal thought.
And I'm thinking more
and I'm not
walkers.
Against the project. Okay.
I understand.
I'm thinking more walkers. I go for walks down on my end of town where we do not have any sidewalks, and whenever I hit Poquoson Avenue, which is the one place that there are sidewalks, it's so much more comfortable walking on a sidewalk than it is even if it's 100 feet. I feel better on the sidewalk than I do on a road. So I was thinking more walkers.
I was just going to ask the manager if he could explain just a little bit about what exactly a maintenance easement is or consists of.
Maintenance easement behind the curb simply gives us the legal authority to go in there and do what we need to do for repair of the curb or other things. You can't always do it from the street.
From the curb, mostly curb.
From behind the curb.
Behind the curb.
Typically to deal
Okay.
with the curb or
Okay.
where the road
Yeah, I
adjoins
just
the curb.
wasn't
We
real
just,
familiar
you
with
can't
what
always
was included.
work on it from the street. Sometimes we got to get behind the curb to do the work, and that's what this would be.
Okay. Anybody, how about if we, can we come somewhere in the middle of the two things? What I heard from the developer, and you're welcome to come back up here if I get this wrong. It's neutral to you whether you put the sidewalk in or not. That's what I. Go ahead.
It is. I mean, certainly, Mayor, we can work around it. We'd probably prefer not, because I also have to bring we have to bring natural gas through there too, and they prefer not to be under the sidewalk. So it would be easier for us to bring if the natural gas is on Amherst Road, it'd be easier to bring it in there, and then we can, at that point, when we get behind Mr. Long's property, we can then put that out a little bit further, make a little more arrangement in there. But other than that, and again, I think we can work with the gas company, so it's really at the pleasure of the council, and we'll work either way that you see fit.
Thank you.
I just think it makes much more sense to stop it where it is. If it's a walker and they're interested in walking further, they simply cross the street, get on the other side, walk and walk back.
Can we just simply, here's what I would recommend, that we just change the language to say, extend the sidewalk as far as practical, but terminating before it reaches to Emmaus Road, and let staff take care of what practical means. In other words, we'll let them bring the sidewalk as far as they went, but I think you've got a very good point. I'm just saying bring it as far as practical by the plan, and then we'll basically put a sign there, no bikes, beyond this point or something. But, and let staff do it in the final design phase.
It would be possible perhaps to put some sort of a rail at the end, so that if someone were riding down it, they wouldn't be able to get
They have to go down into the road. We would hope that our youth, that our citizens would, once they're on the road in a bicycle, that they obey the signs of the road. I'd like to tell you that that's always the case, but kids and even adults will be that way. I would just say we'd leave it up to the final design stage, and we say take it as far as practical, but not to intersect with Emmaus Road for the very reason that you're talking about, buddy. Is that okay?
I don't agree with it. No, it's not okay with me.
Okay, not okay with you.
Because it makes much more sense to have the two sidewalks end at the same place.
Same place. Oh, end at the same
They both end at that property line behind the property to the north.
Is that a sidewalk on the other side?
Yeah, you got sidewalks on both sides.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, it's not a game changer to me either way. I'm just trying to see if there's something we can all work together on. All right. No more comments, and we have a motion on the table. And we'll go ahead and just take a vote.
Okay, we're not putting in your comment, right?
Not putting in that comment.
All right.
Okay.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Ayer?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Vernal?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council comments of the city manager.
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
Your agenda was out of order. You have one more.
I thought there was something.
New business.
Oh, I see it. Got it.
Go back one.
All right, sorry, going back up. Under new business, a resolution directing that public notice be given of city council's intention to receive bids for an easement on city property. Randy, who's going to present this?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
This, if you approve it, this will set in motion a public process. We have been approached by Virginia Natural Gas, actually by the folks that lease the tower from you in the back, the tower site, and they'd like to run gas to that site, and they're looking for an easement to run a line essentially to the side of City Hall Avenue before it turns back towards the building, and just continue at that point and go on back to the tower. I don't see it as being in our way of anything we would need to do in the future. But because it is a permanent easement beyond 5 years, Virginia code requires that we treat it like any other long-term interest in property. So this would simply set that in motion. We're not anticipating.
What we're doing tonight is just approving the advertisement
That's
of
correct.
that. Is that correct?
How far down City Hall Avenue does gas come now? Does it come all the way to this building?
It is, there is
But just
road.
Yeah. It does, okay. So it'd just be basically in this building?
That's correct, on the outside of the road.
Yeah.
And the only thing I know that we worked with the landowner behind us and their road program or whatever, just make sure that we take that into account.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They'll have to design around it, but it shouldn't be in the path at all.
Agree.
Based on what they provide.
And again, just for the public's knowledge, this is basically something to advertise it with. That's all
That's correct.
We're approving. So is there somebody prepared to make a motion on the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution of the Council of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, directing that public notice be given on the council's intention to receive bids for an easement on city property.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve the resolution. Other questions or comments? Not, Judy, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. Now, comments of the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 items this evening. First is a follow-up to an item that we discussed at your last meeting. The last meeting, we provided an update on the final construction to the Wrens Road ramp project. And since that time, because we've had more favorable weather than we anticipated and good contractors to work with, that project is finished. So if you have not gone by to see it, please do. It is open for business. It was out of business for no more than a couple of weeks. And there are a couple of cones there still now. There's a small area off to the left side as you look at the water where the concrete is curing, but it doesn't impair access to the ramp or to the facility next to the ramp.
Okay.
I wanted to point out and commend Tom Jones and his folks. If you've been out to Emery's Wharf lately, he's had to install some barriers to keep folks on four-wheel drive vehicles and four-wheelers and other things off of that piece of property. They were really tearing it up, and signs and requests didn't seem to help, and we have installed some barriers now, and they're fairly passive, but I wouldn't take a four-wheel drive over it. Essentially what they are is telephone poles, and they're on the ground, and that's why they're there. And I appreciate that the vandalism there has dropped off to nothing. And my final is we have a similar issue at Massac Point. There was a small group of folks who were taking their four-wheel drive vehicles and going up on the hill and going on the green spaces and using it. They're up basically off-roading. And they are really tearing up the good work that they're tearing it up faster than the Public Works Department, Parks Maintenance folks can fix it back up. And given the nature of that property, it's not as simple as laying a few telephone poles down. That barrier there is almost impossible. Well, we're working on some lighting, we're examining some cameras, and we have issued some citations there. But I would ask any person that if they happen to be at Massac Point and they see a person that has a vehicle off on the green spaces, the ones with the signs that say no motor vehicle access, please just pick up your cell phone and call 911 and let us know. Those folks can do a great deal of damage in 2 minutes. And unless we happen to be sitting there, we have a real difficult time figuring out who it was, and even if we did, being able to prosecute them. So we need people's help. If you see people doing things out there that they shouldn't be, please You don't need to confront them yourself. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 911, and we will do our best to promptly take care of it.
I'm just going to follow on to that one thing. Just one brief comment. If your truck shows up back at home with mud down the side, please ask at least where did it come from, so that you can get in front of this before the city gets in front of it. Okay? All right.
I'm just going to ask, if I may, does a police officer have to observe it?
They do.
Okay, so you can't say that you saw it. The police officer has to observe it.
That's correct. Now, if you did observe it, and in 2 years from now it was my 16-year-old son, and you observed it, if we don't have enough to prosecute criminally, there may be enough evidence to seek civil damages, and certainly there would be enough in that chain to have a representative of city law enforcement show up at the door and ask to speak to the driver of the vehicle and or his parents if they were juvenile. We do follow up, and sometimes it's not writing a citation. I think sometimes, especially with the young people, they're not thinking it all the way through. I don't think they're purposely intending to really damage anything. I think they're just not thinking it all the way through. So if folks could just help us, our goal is not to prosecute anyone. Our goal is to preserve those spaces for everyone, and we just need some help, because as you know, if you're out there, you can see a police car coming from a long way out.
I think that's one of the problems, is it is so open and so flat, and you got a little elevation that, if the police has to actually apprehend you, that is a problem.
Or camera.
Or a camera.
And the police presence is there. They're
there a lot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Councilman Vernal. Council
Well,
Directors.
the thing I was going to mention was what Randy already said. I rode by the improvement to the boat ramp today, and that certainly did solve that problem. I think it's going to be much appreciated by those who use that ramp.
Great. Councilman Green.
Several things, Mr. Mayor, if I could, to remind everybody, the Morris Food Bank from 10 to 1 at the old City Hall, and the city employees are hosting it this time. We appreciate that very much. Appreciate Dr. Flynn coming out. I'd just like to, and I'm not saying I'm for any of this, I'm just want to correct a couple of things. Being your assistant to the TPO, I was there when a lot of this took place. The big difference between the Transportation Authority they tried to establish years ago and this one is this authority has no taxing power. They cannot pass taxes on to us, and they will not pass on any expenses to the cities. It's all going to come out of the transportation money that the state is already collecting. Now, I personally don't think we need another bureaucratic body spending that money. It ought to be spent on the roads, but it's the only way they can get the state to let the Hampton Roads area control the money. Otherwise, the state holds it, and that's
We'd rather have
just some
local
clarifications. I want to thank the developer and Paul Michael for their work on resolving the safety issue with the radiuses. That was work well done, and I think it really helped in the safety factor of that road meeting Emmaus Road.
Very good. Councilman Eric.
Just echoing what Buddy said about that development, that helps a lot for all of us. And also congratulations to the wrestling team. I think 4th place state finish, and also to the state finishers. I think we had quite a few of them, a good showing.
Okay, excellent. Bud?
No comments tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay. Tracy?
I'll take Bud's time, and I'll give you notes, Judy. Sorry.
Do you defer your time, Bud?
I defer my time to Councilman Lee Ball.
All right. I have a couple of announcements. Kiwanis is having 2 events on March the 15th. The first one is in the morning at the primary school, and it is our first fishing flea market. So if anybody is interested in getting rid of some usable but unwanted or unused fishing gear, and that's all the way from boats to reels or life vests or whatever, you can buy a table or you can donate it and let Kiwanis sell it. We're trying to turn this into a yearly event, so we'll see how this goes. But that will be the 15th of March, which is Saturday morning from 9 to 2 at the primary school. And you can find out from information from Fred Kimsey. His phone number, which I have permission to share, is 746-0512. We already have quite a few very nice things that we know are going to be there for sale. So I encourage anybody who needs to purchase something to come and check that out. That evening, March the 15th, at Saturday evening, the Briar Patch is hosting a dinner theater again. They did this last year. I think, Mayor, you might be familiar with what they did.
Yes, I am.
And you can contact Becky at the Briar Patch for more information about that, but that's also a fundraiser. Prior to that, this is not Kiwanis, but PETA is coming to the trailer park, Shady Oaks Trailer Park, on March the 13th. So if you have animals that are in need of shots or to be spayed or neutered, you can get in touch with PETA before they come to make an appointment, I think, or I think you can just show up. So those are those things. Now, I have a lot I attended a meeting from the Peninsula Agency on Aging, and so here are some notes that I wanted to share with our elders. Thursday, April 3rd, if you need a will or some simple documents drafted, the law firm of Williams Mullen Law Firm is doing this for free from 9 to 5 at the Hampton Main Library. And you can get information from the PAA, Peninsula Agency for Aging. Their phone number is 873-0541. Also with PAA, there is Meals on Wheels, which you can, again, call PAA and they can set you up with Meals on Wheels. They need volunteers. They also, if you have a family member or a neighbor who could benefit from Meals on Wheels, please contact them. There is a 32nd Annual Community Forum on Aging, which is Tuesday, March the 4th. And you can pre-register. Again, this is all sponsored by the PAA. I recommend, I've been to one of these a few years back, and it really does have a lot of very good information for anybody who loves somebody who is getting older and might need a little bit of help. So I encourage you to look at that. And finally, if you'd like to donate your vehicle to Meals on Wheels, it's a tax deduction, and call the PAA. Okay. That is all.
Thank you. I'll remind you that you wanted to go home at 8 o'clock.
I know. It was important.
Okay, very good. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Councilwoman Crawford took my time.
Thank you.
All right, I have nothing further to add this evening, so we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, and we are adjourned.
Yes.
What are you doing?